What's going on, everyone? Dana White Contender Series Week 4 preview. We're just going to make this a quick one. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't like this card from a betting perspective. I mean, these guys, I'm sure there's going to be a couple guys by the end of the ninth that look like a decent prospect. Of course, Dana White's going to be handing out contracts, but at least on the tape study of things, they're fairly evenly matched. Bunch of holes in a lot of their games, and just not that there's not enough footage, just there's not enough footage of them in bad positions. Like some of these guys, I couldn't tell you if they can wrestle or not. I couldn't tell you what the ground game's not. One guy on the card's a BJJ black belt, 0 submission wins out of 12. 12 wins, 0 by submission. He's BJJ black belt. How good is that grappling? I don't know. So the other issue, not only is it not the greatest card going, is that we've missed out on the lines. We'll talk about that going right through, but all these lines at this point have been missed out on. We'll start at the bottom, Jacob Rosales versus Victor Martinez. Jacob Rosales opens up. He's a plus 170 underdog, so this is dog pick all day long. At the current recording, you can find him at minus 190, minus 175. So big money's come down on Jacob Rosales. Well, why is that? First of all, neither of these guys are all that good. Rosales, we've seen him on Contender Series before. And he took on Jonathan Pierce. First round, I mean, he kind of gets battered around. Second round, he gets big-time battered around. And then the third round, you got to give him some props for his cardio. You got to give him some props for his heart and his desire to be in there. But he's just taking a shellacking. And then finally in the third round, he gets dropped by a right hand, finished off by Jonathan Pierce. His next fight against the Salomon Idemar over an LFA. I mean, it's a limited fight, but Rosales sticks in your face. He sticks in your face. He likes to engage. He's not trying to take you down. He's got decent takedown defense, but it's all about pressure, pressure, pressure. His problem with all this pressure game and some decent enough offensive striking is that he's just so damn hittable. So guys with power are going to take advantage, and there's just only so much a young kid can run into. He's 24 when he fought Jonathan Pierce, so we're expecting improvement out of him, but he still does take a considerable enough damage. So he gets back in the win column, and then he fights Bryce Logan at LFA 87. It's a 5-round fight, goes all 5 rounds. And to be honest with you, Jacob Rosales kind of starts coming on a little bit rounds 4 and 5. I mean, cardio checks out for him. Chin's pretty decent all around. He's work in progress, but he's aggressive and he stays in your face. And then obviously he wins his last time out. So he seems like he's one of these guys. He's not big on his own power. It's just pressure, stay in your face, work you. He's getting more seasoned. He's getting more comfortable. He's still only 26 years old. He is making some improvements out there. As a plus 170 underdog, I'd be in on that. The thing with Victor Martinez is you'll see right from the weigh-ins, you'll see from this fight here, it doesn't look like he's a very big guy for the weight class. Carries a little bit of extra weight around his midsection. You know, his career has kind of been lackluster at times. He's got wins over a lot of the regional guys in Texas, you know, lower level guys. Loses a split decision to this Eric Gonzalez. But what's of note, we'll talk about his last 3 wins, which are good enough. But he beats Kleydson on a split decision. It's a solid enough victory. This Nico Echeverry, right? I mean, you see him come up, you see him, his willingness to strike, his willingness to engage, his willingness to get in there. And he's actually the guy I was talking about, was a BJJ black belt. He's at a Team Ferreira in Texas, right? He's got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and yet of his 12 professional victories, 8 by knockout, 0 by submission. He just looks to march you down. As well, 2 of his pro losses are by submission. He's never been knocked out. This has got, to me, all the makings of a fight that's at least going into the second and third round. I'm thinking it's going the distance. But for the over 2.5 in specific, yeah, the over 2.5 rounds is minus 110. That's kind of where I'd be looking to put my money at this point. If I could have gotten Jacob Rosales a plus 170, I would have been in on it. I'll be honest with you. I didn't get it. I went plus 170. So at this point, I'm thinking the over 2.5. The reason I say that is you got one guy in Victor Martinez, never been knocked out before, likes to keep the fight standing. You know, tough chin, pretty durable guy. And you got somebody in Jacob Rosales who's got good cardio, got pretty decent chin. The time that he did get knocked out against Jonathan Pierce, it's into the 3rd round, a fight he took a ton of damage in. This thing's going the over 2.5, I would believe. The pick is going to be Jacob Rosales, but again, I think we just kind of missed the line. They're both fairly low level. This is going to be a striking battle. They're both going to have their spots and their moments. I just favor the work rate and the experience of Jacob Rosales. So that's what I'll go with there. Kleydson Rodrigues, Santo Curatolo. Again, not that we didn't miss the line on this one. When you consider this, Kleydson Rodrigues opens up as a minus 185 favorite. The comeback on Santo Curatolo is plus 160. So for the Curatolo backers, I mean, they got a much better price at the plus 160 than the currently near even money is. But I think I'm going to end up going with Kleydson Rodrigues, and for that reason, I wouldn't want to pay minus 185, and he's only minus 130 currently. So I think that's the way I'm going to lean. No real strong sense of confidence in this fight. When you look at Santo Curatolo, he looks talented. He looks skilled. Don't really want to bet against this guy, but he's the reason I'm going to bet against this guy. Pro debut, 1st round knockout. Second fight, a 1-0 opponent, 1st round knockout. 2-0 opponent, 1st round knockout. 3-2 opponent, 1st round knockout. Fights James Mancini, who's up from Montreal, fights a Canadian fighter, knocks him out in the first round, sets him up for a CFFC title shot. These are all first-round knockouts. All of these fights have ended inside the first round. He fights Albert Trujillo, and he has a very good first round. The place is going nuts. They're chanting. His striking looks on point. His takedown defense, solid, man. And this guy is strong. He's only 5'3", but he's a strong, compact little flyweight, and he's difficult to wrangle to the ground. He throws excellent kicks, good low kicks, likes to throw up with the head kick as well, but just power in both hands. And that's a reason why, as a flyweight, he's coming into the fight with 5 first-round knockouts. He has a ton of power for this weight class. But it's like, this is the making of a good, solid fighter. And in the first round, he looks pretty solid. Till about maybe a minute left in the first round, all good. It's first-round Curatolo all day long. Second round, he's tired. First time he'd ever been to a second round, and it's a title fight. Now that he's in the second round, he becomes hittable himself, and he doesn't really battle back all that well. He gets tied up in the clinches. Albert Trujillo bombs him a couple times to the body. They obviously hurt him, stings him with the right hand. Guy falls over, and Alberto Trujillo just passes right into full mount and just rains him with shots from full mount. Ref stops it. It's like a big upset win. But it's just like, that's what happened when he got outside of the first round. So it was promising to see in his last fight against Dilshad Zaripov. He kind of conserves himself a little bit more in that first round, does make it to the second, and does still score at second round knockout. But I have the sense that Zaripov did nothing to push the pace whatsoever. I have the sense that if somebody goes out there, attempts to wrestle, even though he's stuffing the takedowns, you wrestling is forcing him to exert that energy, right? You staying in his face, you pressuring him, you doing all those things is going to be good. I feel like Kleydson Rodrigues could be that guy. Now, week in and week out, we see not only the Contender Series, last week it was Almeida, but in the UFC in general, a lot of the time there's these Brazilian fighters, you watch some tape on them from Jungle Fights or some regional promotion over in Brazil. They look okay, but still a work in progress, a little bit green. And then they come over to the States and they look awesome. And I guess part of me is thinking that's going to be the case here. When you see Kleydson Rodrigues, he's got all of the skills. He's another one of these guys that's got excellent grappling, good submission game, good striking, aggressive, keeps everything nice, tight, compact, likes to come forward, seemingly has good cardio. We've seen him go to decision a couple times. His only career loss is by decision, split decision, I believe. So he's durable enough. He's fought in the third round before. And even when he finishes these guys in the second round, you can still see that there's some gas in the tank. He's improving daily. When you see him online, shredded. Guys just shredded up. Excellent shape. So yesterday at the weigh-ins, he comes in, and obviously he was going to have a height advantage because he's fighting a guy that's 5'3", but you saw with Kleydson Rodrigues, he's a much bigger, more filled-out guy. He's only on paper a 3-inch height advantage, but all around just his frame, he looked pretty big. So he's only 25 years old. They're both young. They're both making improvements. I just got a feeling that if Abreu can keep this thing close in the first round, wear on him, not get finished, take him to a second round, he'll have more success in the second round. And if this thing was to hit a third round, Curatolo never been to a third round before. So, again, it's not the most confident play going, but I'm going to go with the Brazilian here to get the W. And, we'll see if he's made those improvements. Steve Nguyen versus Theo, I don't even know how to pronounce this, Rlayang? Doesn't really matter. We'll call him Theo. Theo versus Steven Nguyen. This is just another fight where the line got missed, right? Steven Nguyen could have been had at -160, and now he's the biggest favorite on the card, just under 3-1. So if you were planning on betting Steve Nguyen, it was a dicey proposition before. It's a much more dicey proposition now. So at least fans know Steve Nguyen. He's fought on Contender Series before. He fought Rlayang Cruz. First round of that fight, it's hectic, man. Boy, I think it's like 42-40 for Rlayang Cruz, and striking significant strikes landed in the first round. 82 significant strikes landed between both guys. Crazy. Second round, Rlayang Cruz keeps landing, and Steve Nguyen starts to fall back ever so slightly. Third round, Steve Nguyen is starting to take a little bit of damage, and then he eats a nasty flying knee out of nowhere that just completely renders him unconscious. Tough break. The kid's fought once since then. He came back against this Jorge Juarez, and he knocks him out in 30 seconds. So, we'd like to say, obviously, he's shaking the cobwebs, but I'd like to see the improvements. 30 seconds, knockout, looks good. It's a confidence builder. I don't know that the improvements are really there. But at his best, he's one of these just scrap guys. He stays in your face. He can fight long. He's got decent striking. Takedown defense, haven't really had to use it a whole lot. But I think he's an all-around decent enough fighter, and he's going to have the striking advantage. The real key here is that Steve Nguyen stands 5'11", has just under a 73-inch reach, while Theo only stands 5'6". Again, it's another thing that you notice at the weigh-ins is that Theo's a much shorter guy. But when you watch Theo's fights, he's crushing cans. Pro debut, 2-3 opponent. Second pro fight, 0-1 opponent. Third pro fight was a 3-11 opponent. His fourth pro fight was a 5-7 opponent. That was Dave Morgan. Dave Morgan's a former flyweight. He's 5-7 currently. And Dave Morgan is the best guy he's fought. And Dave Morgan actually lasts all 3 rounds. Keeps it competitive in the first round, to be honest with you. And then he beats Dave Morgan, and then he beats this Jeremiah Sierra 4-3 with a first round rear naked choke. And now he's on a Contender Series fight. So essentially, the best guy he's beaten on paper would be the 4-3 guy. At least he had a winning record. And then in general, it's Dave Morgan, 5-7 flyweight. Flyweight. So now you're moving up. You're taking on Stephen Nguyen at 145 pounds. You're giving up 5 inches in the height department. And yeah, Theo likes to strike as well. He's excellent with his feints. He feints, and then eventually will land some low kick. Eventually land, a little overhand right over the top. It's maybe a checked hook. He's a decent enough striker right in that pocket. But when you see him fight these guys, they're all his height. I've never seen him fight a guy that's much taller than him with a long jab that is capable of fighting long and is just as good, if not a better striker than him. So Nguyen just seems to have the advantage in the striking department anyways, let alone he'll have that long reach to work with. He's fought much better guys. He's already fought in the Contender Series in front of Dana White in a thrilling fight that went 3 rounds and a long cruise. Not that he was any good, ended up going to the UFC, right? Signing a contract, so that's pretty tough. This other guy, this is like his first time to step up and shine. And he's out of a relatively small gym out of South Carolina. Like, I don't know. Again, any of these guys are capable of stepping up and shocking you and changing the narrative. But yeah, I'm going to agree with the money coming in on Steve Nguyen. And whereas I would have been down at -160 at near 3-1, really? Do we like him that much? Not really. We're more so fading the other guy than we're saying how much we like Nguyen. But I will agree with the assessment. He should get the job done. Michael Morales versus Nikolay Veretennikov. What do you want to know? It's just another fight. Same thing. The line's been missed. Not all that much, I suppose. Nikolay was a -170, and now he's like a -200, -220 at worst. So 30 to 50 points have come in on him. Michael Morales, meanwhile, slightly bigger underdog. I could see this being an upset. I could see Michael Morales coming in and showing off a ton of skills. And I hate to say it, he just hasn't fought at the high enough level, right? It's very difficult to read how good a guy is when he beats low-level opponents all the time. In his case, this is a guy, he fights out of the Colombian regional scene. I would go as far as to say he's from Ecuador, but he fights in, Colombia, Ecuador, Venezuela, a lot of smaller South American promotions. 1-2 opponent, 2-3 opponent, 0-0 opponent, 1-2, 0-0, 2-3, 2-0, 6-5, 8-5. Now he's jumping into this spot here. He seems to have excellent cardio. I mean, he's as effective in the first round as he is in the third round. And if this thing was a 5-rounder, it seems like he'd be as effective. This guy seems to be in incredibly good shape. His problem to me is that he's super hesitant. Like, a lot of the times he won't let his hands go until the second round. He won't get his hands going for the first 3 minutes of a round. And then he'll just land a couple shots later, a combination later. It's enough to sway the judges. And then eventually he does finish these guys. He doesn't finish them right away. He doesn't push any type of pace. He doesn't throw much volume. But eventually he is catching these guys and they're toppling over. The issue goes back to the fact that they're low-level guys. So he's extremely patient and taking his time, eventually decides, it's time to put them away, and he does. But against somebody else, they're going to be putting money in the bank. They're landing kicks. They're landing damage. And there's another problem with Michael Morales. How does he take damage? I don't know. None of these guys have ever presented him with adversity. They've never pushed him. They've never tested his mettle. So how good is his heart? I don't know. How's good his takedown defense? To be honest, I couldn't tell you. None of these guys are really taking him down. He appears to be physically in great shape, right? He's training with the best level guys that he can in his area. Iridium Sports Management, they signed him, so they see something in the kid. And I'm sure they've gone out of their way to help him in whatever way they could to make him better. It's just you don't know until you see it. And now he's finally got, a tough fight in front of him. Now, Nikolay, meanwhile, he could have been the same way, right? He starts off his career 1-3. Mind you, he's fighting in Russia, right? So he's a natural striker. He's a Santo Wushu champion, comes from a striking pedigree, a traditional martial arts style. And they're very good in the clinch as well, but they're not great off their back. They don't have great takedown defense. So it starts off in Russia, and of course he's getting taken down. He's getting submitted. Doesn't look all that good. 1-3 record, and then leaves Kazakhstan, leaves Russia, and actually moves stateside to Texas. Over in Texas, he finds the level of competition a lot more suited to his skills. And he's gone on a wicked run since then. They actually gave him some of the best guys in the Texas regional scene right off the get-go. Mind you, he gets from Russia. He's 1-3, and he fights a 0-1 opponent. His next fight, he takes Charlie Ontiveros. Now, Charlie Ontiveros He fought in the UFC, right? But he in the Texas regional scene, Charlie's actually a named guy. He's a somebody. He's 2-3, and he's taking on an 8-4 Charlie Ontiveros. And he messes him up, knees to the body. Boom, first round TKO, 2 minutes in. Looks good. They give him Martinez Young. Bad looking record, but Martinez Young on the Texas regional scene is the man. You know, he's a fan favorite. Beats Martinez Young. Now they're like, shit, maybe we got something. If they've given them the best guys in Texas, LFA eventually comes and signs him. And he's been looking good. This Steve Jones fight, I guess, yeah, it'd be the Steve Jones fight. He opens up as an underdog, ends up going off as the favorite, but it's seemingly like his Muay Thai. I know I said he's a Santo Wushu guy, but he loves the Thai clinch. And what he'll do is he'll just wrangle your neck and just bomb you to the body with knees, gas you out, take all the gas out of you, hurt you, never gives you any space, always just continuously coming forward. He's in great shape, and he just loves to throw down. He's one of these pressure guys that's going to be an absolute problem because win or lose, you're going to know that you're in a fight the next day. Now, when he left Russia, comes over to Texas, you see improvements that he's made. And that took him as far as he could go. And then he says, you know what, I got to go one better. He moves over to California. He's full-time at King's MMA. He's one of Beneil Dariush's main guys. Beneil's very high on him. I would say I agree with the money coming in, and he's getting a lot better. So the Steve Jones fight was supposed to be a tough fight because Jones is pretty decent. He was 8-1. You know, how good is Nikolay? Nikolay looks awesome in that fight. Again, he wrangles this guy up, pillar to post, has a ton of success, stuffs the takedowns, looks good. And then he fights Anthony Ivy, who, of course, briefly fought in the UFC, is no good. He stuffs all of Anthony Ivy's, feeble takedown attempts in the first minute and a half, and then just cooks him to the body, puts him down. He loves working the body. He's got excellent knees in the clinch. He's a strong physical guy, great volume, great output, good cardio, solid enough chin. If there was one guy on paper coming into the episode that I would say seems like he's got a UFC skill set, maybe not a top 10, top 15 guy, at least yet, but I think it would be Nikolay. And flip to that, Michael Morales looks in great shape. The tape looks good. It's just he needs an elite level win. And if he goes out there and cooks Nikolay, then he's the guy that deserves to be mixing it up in the UFC. We will see. But I'm going to say Veretennikov looks like the more refined guy all around. And then in the main event, we got Hashem Arkhagha versus AJ Dobson. Again, this is going to be a sloppy one. And AJ Dobson's the pick. You could have had him at opener at plus 140. Great underdog selection. Unfortunately, now he's minus 135 favorite. So again, the money's going in. I don't disagree with it. I think it head in the right direction. You could have this would be otherwise a 5-fight card where you'd be looking at two nice underdogs. Shit, I got Jacob Rosales at plus 170. I got AJ Dobson at plus 140. I got a decent looking Kazakh prospect fighting out of King's MMA at minus 170. Steve Nguyen minus 160. And I guess the Kleydson Rodrigues fight, you would have paid up on him. That seems a lot better than what we're looking at now. But all the same, we'll break down this main event. Well, we'll start off with Hashem, right? Hashem. So despite the fact that you'll notice that he wears, the Khabib hat, he's not a wrestler. He's not a grappler at all. He's actually Jordanian, comes out of Jordan, and likes to strike, likes to stay in your face, likes to be aggressive. A lot of these guys fight the same, right? They want to be the guy moving forward. And on all the tape on them, they are the guy moving forward. It's easy to get a good read on someone. It's difficult to get a good read on someone because how are they going to fight off the back foot? Now we got two guys that like to move forward. Well, which guy is going to be the one doing it and which guy's going to have to step backwards? And the guy that steps backwards, is he able to even fight off his back foot? Again, don't know. But with Hashem, he looks decent enough. He wins 4 fights, and then he takes a 7-year hiatus. So from 2012 until 2019, nowhere to be seen, right? Comes back after a 7-year long hiatus, 3-0 opponent, knocks him out in the second. This Jeremy Smith, at least he's fighting an international opponent, knocks him out in 35 seconds, all good stuff. Yuri Fraga's last time out, which is 1 year ago, he knocks him out 227 in the first round. It's just that they're all low-level guys, right, with mediocre records, but they're standing right in front of him. They're not great. His striking looks good. He's got a whipping little uppercut that he likes to throw out there. He's got a decent enough hand speed. But to me is that he fights with his hands low. I don't think he can take a great punch, and there's just not enough substance out of him. He's not mixing in his wrestling unless he really needs to or if the fight happened to fall to the ground, and his striking just doesn't look elite. It looks sloppy, and he looks hittable. I will admit, his last fight against Yuri Fraga, he's tightened it all up. He looks a little bit better in that fight. But it's 2012. This Ibrahim El Sawi fight, he just walks right into it with his hands at his hip. They say the ref says go. He just walks right up to him with his hands at his hips, and the dude just kicks him in the face. He folds over. He does wake back up, comes back, and wins the fight. But it's like, to me, and then that was his last fight for 7 years. Comes back, The Jeremy Smith fight's 35 seconds. It's done. What can we take away from that? Don't know. This Yuri Fraga fight, he's 13-11. And he looked so petrified to be in there. Yuri just backed up the entire time. Like, it was just inevitable that it was going to get knocked out. He wasn't even looking to engage for the most part. And then Hashem eventually hits him and puts him over. So solid enough victories, right? The results are definitely there. It looks like he's got some good power, but I can't say that I'm all that impressed. AJ Dobson, meanwhile, he trains out of Matt. While he's listed as Carlson Gracie, Ohio, and I'm sure he's getting some grappling in there, but he seems to be full-time out of Matt Brown's gym, like Immortal MMA out of Ohio. Now, this will sound like a convoluted story, but the godfather of Ohio martial arts, of course, is Mark Coleman, right? Mark Coleman links up with this guy named Louis Simmons. Louis Simmons is like a powerlifting pioneer. Like, he's like a legend, an absolute OG legend, and he owns a gym called Westside Barbell in Ohio. So he actually does all the strength and conditioning for Mark Coleman and Kevin Randleman once upon a time. So now it's like, well, who's Ohio's favorite son now that Mark Coleman's long gone? It's Matt Brown, right? Matt Brown's his favorite son. So Matt Brown links up with Mark Coleman. Coleman takes him to Louis Simmons' Westside Barbell, and this place is intense, man. They keep you ripped up. They keep you ready to go. I mean, just the techniques, the stuff that Louis thought about over the years, it's very big for athletes. Now, it was initially for powerlifters, but now they got like a branch, which is like Westside Barbell athletes. And a lot of these MMA fighters in Ohio will go there, get some strength and conditioning. And these guys are going to be strong. These guys are going to be exceptionally strong. When you try to look at stuff on AJ Dobson, he doesn't really show you much grappling online. He doesn't really show you he's working on his wrestling online. It shows you hitting a heavy bag and lifting weights. That's kind of all he does. But there's no doubt about it, this guy's going to be very powerful in there, very strong individual. And that's what I'm expecting out of him. When you watch the tape on him, he just bomb rushes these guys, just comes right at them, lays it on his head straight up in the air. He's not being defensively sound at all, and he just lets his hands go and crowds them up against the cage and puts them away. That's how he fights. JT Miller debut, first-round knockout. Seth Bass, no contest, 43 seconds in. Willie Whitehead, first-round knockout. Montreal James goes to decision, and then his last two fights, he got a 24-second rear naked choke and a 35-second knockout. Can he fight beyond the first round? I think so. I think he's going to be very strong in there. I think he's going to have good cardio. He's going to come in excellent shape. And he's one of these guys that just takes everything very seriously. He's working very hard. He's being very diligent. He's going to be in good shape. I think if they clinch up, he's going to be the stronger man. I don't know that he's looking to take this fight to the ground. I just mean he's not. I don't think he's going to be muscled around there. You know how the question was posed by me earlier? Well, which guy's going to be the one moving forward? Which one's going to have to take the step back? I don't see Dobson being the one taking the step back. I think he comes forward. I think he lets his hands rip. I think he could knock out Hashem. But even if he doesn't, I think that he's just going to be able to control the fight up against the cage, be the stronger guy. I've seen a little bit of his grappling from some of these regional show fights where he's on top. It looks like he's actually, competent enough. He's going to be strong, a pretty athletic guy, going to have a little bit of size in there. I feel like Dobson gets the job done. And as an underdog selection, I would have been very happy with it. But as a minus 135 selection, again, it's like it's the position that we've caught ourselves in. So this card's, I don't know, it's kind of short on stuff that I like. If I was to try to parlay it all together, I don't know, what do you go with? You go with Nikolay. Nikolay's your top anchor piece. And then who do you match him up with? Do you go with Steve Nguyen just because he's the 3-1 favorite? Like, I suppose Jacob Rosales to me seems a little bit safer. Like, I think I'd go Nikolay, Jacob Rosales on the first line, drop Steve Nguyen on the second line, I don't actually mind AJ Dobson, to be honest with you. Put him up there. And then on that last line, I think you go Kleydson, Rodrigues versus Santo, Curatolo, just because Santo is pretty decent. I am fading him, but it would be the bottom of my ticket fade. As far as props goes, like, not a whole lot that I like. I would say the Rosales versus Victor Martinez over 2.5 at minus 110 was something that I was interested in. Kleydson versus Curatolo, the over 1.5 is minus 130. So I actually like the over 1.5 in that spot. Nguyen versus Theo, over 1.5 minus 150. What's up? I like that. Michael Morales versus Nikolay. Honestly, I wouldn't mess around with overs in this one. I think it's going to be pure violence. And Dobson versus Hashem. This one's definitely going to be violence. Someone's getting knocked out. Could be either guy in the first round. And if it gets to that second round, I'm pulling for Dobson to put him away. But again, cardio is going to be an issue. Bright lights is going to be an issue. Most of these guys don't have high-level experience. They haven't fought high-level opponents. They haven't fought in this type of setting before. So what you see on tape is not always what you're going to see in the actual octagon. I don't know. It remains to be seen. Not a very confident card, but anyways, I'm just throwing out my notes there in case you want to cross-reference, kind of see where my head's at. Last week and this week, of course, we've got a UFC fights on that card, it's difficult to re-tape study some of these lower level Contender Series fights. But we love Contender Series. We love watching fights on Tuesdays. I'll tweet some official stuff out later. But if you want a video, here it is.